Welcome to Stephen AI TV. You know, sometimes the best way to really get the pulse of a community, to see what's really going on, isn't from the big flashy headlines. Nope, it's from the quiet drama that unfolds every day in a local courtroom. All these seemingly random events, a burglary here, a disturbance there, even just some vandalism, they can paint a surprisingly detailed picture of a place. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. So, we're going to look at 6 different cases that all went through the courts in County Louth, right here in Ireland. And at first glance, they seem totally disconnected. I mean, you've got an attempted burglary, a public disturbance, a huge drug bust, and an act of vandalism. What could they possibly have in common? Well, when you start to look a little closer, that's when the patterns pop out. And this whole collection of stories, it really brings up a fascinating question, right? What do these moments in court really tell us about the deeper stuff? About crime, about how a community bounces back, and all the social pressures that connect everything together. Okay, so let's start with a theme that, honestly, you see again and again in court systems all over the world. We're talking about addiction, and how it just creates this tragic revolving door of desperation and, well, repeat offenses. All right, take a look at this. This is where it gets really interesting, because we're putting 2 lives side by side. On one side, you've got John Keenan. He's 26 and already has 27 prior convictions. On the other, Kevin Ward, 39 years old with 29 priors. I mean, both men are clearly trapped in a cycle, and it's all driven by substance abuse. Keenan, the report says, is plagued with a crack cocaine addiction. For Ward, he relapsed on the anniversary of his mother's death, a really tough day. But here's the kicker. Look at the sentences. One gets 6 months in prison, the other gets a suspended sentence. It just goes to show you the incredibly complex balancing act judges have to perform every single day. And when they asked John Keenan why he tried to break into a service station, you know what he said? "I was looking for somewhere to sleep." Just, wow. No damage was done. He didn't steal a thing. It's just this incredibly simple, desperate statement. Now, of course, that doesn't excuse the crime, but man, it had such a powerful human context. It shows you that behind that charge, there's a real story of homelessness and addiction. But look, not every crime comes from that kind of quiet desperation. Sometimes things just boil over. A situation can escalate in the blink of an eye, going from a simple call for help to actual physical violence. And this next case is a perfect example of how fast things can spiral out of control. I mean, it all started with a call for help. This guy, Destiny Isajola, a 24-year-old with a completely clean record, he's the one who called the Garda for assistance. But then, in a moment of what was described as raised temper and anxiety, the whole thing just goes south. He ends up assaulting the very officer who came to help him. The judge called the act appalling, and it is. But the sentence, compensation, and a community service report shows the court is looking at rehabilitation, not just throwing him in prison. So, while that incident with Isajola was like a single explosive moment, a totally different story was unfolding across town in Dundalk. And this one seems a lot more calculated. Yeah, check this out. In the span of just half an hour, we allegedly go from shoplifting groceries at a Lidl to assaulting a staff member who tried to stop him to a full-on robbery at a gas station. The speed of that escalation is pretty wild. But what's really telling is how the court responded immediately. They set a bail condition so strict that it basically banishes the suspect, Ryan McLaughlin, from all of County Louth. And that brings us to our final theme, which is this really fascinating contrast. You've got these 2 powerful forces at play in the very same community. On one hand, the destructive power of organized crime, and on the other, the incredible, constructive power of everyday local people. 700,000 euros. Let that sink in. That's the estimated street value of the cocaine they seized in just one bust over a Knock Bridge. A number like that just gives you a snapshot, a glimpse into the massive scale of the organized drug trade that's bubbling away right under the surface of daily life. So you have 2 men, Padraig Kieran and Paul Mackin, and they're facing some incredibly serious charges here. We're talking about possession for sale or supply with a value over 13,000 euros, which is a really big deal under Irish law. And yet, while the whole legal process plays out, both of them have been granted bail. It's a stark reminder of that core principle, right? Innocent until proven guilty, even when the allegations are this major. Okay, so let's shift gears now. We're going from that huge, kind of impersonal, big money crime to something super local and personal. The word is disgust. That was the one-word reaction from the people in the village of Omeath when they woke up and found their beloved community mural had been vandalized. Financially, this act was nothing compared to the drug bust, but emotionally, it sparked this incredibly powerful response from the community. And this is where you see that amazing counterforce to crime in action. The response wasn't just quick, it was immediate and totally unified. You had volunteers from the Omeath tidy towns who sprang into action. The local community alert group helped out. Even a local TD, Ruwario Morchu, who was just passing by, jumped in to help clean up. These are the guardians of the community. They didn't wait around for someone else to fix it. They just did it. They restored their local heritage and proved that community pride and working together are seriously powerful weapons against this kind of behavior.
Okay, so we've looked at 6 really different stories, haven't we? We've gone from addiction and assault all the way to organized crime and amazing community spirit. So, what's the big picture? What are the patterns we can pull out of all this? Well, when you actually map it all out, a pretty clear picture starts to form. About a third of these cases, like John Keenan's, are really rooted in the desperation that comes with addiction. Another third, they come from those sudden explosive moments of violence. And the rest? They really highlight that constant push and pull between huge organized crime operations and the kind of small-scale vandalism that can trigger such a massive community comeback. At the end of the day, what this all really shows us is that the justice system is just this constant, delicate balancing act. In every single one of these cases we've looked at, from the suspended sentence for a grieving man to the strict bail conditions for an alleged robber, you can see the scales. And on those scales, they're weighing punishment versus rehabilitation and individual personal stories against the greater need to keep the community safe. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. Are these court dates the end of the story? Is that it? Or are they just one single visible chapter in a much, much larger and more complicated cycle? You know, a cycle of addiction, poverty, community action, and all the societal pressures that keep on turning long, long after the judge's gavel falls. And that's the latest from Stephen, AI TV.